listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This is the Cisco edition, taking your business a level up. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Keri Roberts, and we are welcoming today Thomas Mann, the Senior Solutions Center Engineer at Ingram Micro, Kevin Switzer, the Technology Consultant of Cybersecurity for Cisco Solutions, and Collin Rauen, the Senior Channel Account Specialist at Ingram Micro. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
So there have been three areas in the last year that have been prime places where security is of utmost concern. And they include schools, remote working, and healthcare. And I'd love for us to start off with schools. Why have they been a top target for hackers recently?
Well, basically, it's the nature of the schools. They have a lot of BYOD devices coming into the school, and that can be difficult to manage, a real security issue. Also, every year, schools have new users coming in, new students, and that, again, makes it difficult to manage, difficult to know who's who. And then there's a real pot of gold. There's tuition, paychecks of the actual teachers, grants, mostly with higher education. And those are a big target of bad actors, basically.
And the other element that we have, the second piece we mentioned, was remote working. And for those that don't know, there is actually a difference between working from home and remote work. Can you explain the difference between the two and why it's important to secure remote access?
Yeah, I'll take that one. This is Kevin Switzer. For a home worker, typically you're going to have a person who's just have a home office set up. In many cases, you're only worried about the connection between that home office and the actual corporate office. So one connection to worry about. You could even set up a router at the home office to directly connect to the corporate office, or have a VPN set up on the device. And that's really the main thing you have to be concerned about. With a remote worker, they could be working from really anywhere. So in a lot of cases, they're going to be working from hotels. They're going to be working from airports, coffee shops, or other companies' offices. So on those networks that they're initially signing into to gain internet access, there's going to be a lot of other users potentially on that network. So that introduces a whole new level of security concerns, because there is potential for those folks on the local network to be able to access potential packets or records coming in and out of that person's device over that network.
And the third one we have is healthcare. And healthcare and patient data is this other area of big concern, and it has been for a while when it comes to security. What's happening that's new in the space that creates security concerns?
Well, I'd say there's two main avenues within healthcare that make them such a high priority target for attackers. The first one I'll mention is the patient records themselves. So if you think about any time you've ever been to a doctor's office or an ER, first thing you have to do is fill out a whole bunch of information. Of course, that information gets stored into the healthcare system, because it's necessary to have that information. So the doctors have information at their fingertips to find out what they might need. With that, there's a ton of information in these records. So an attacker can get their hands on this, and it can be used for a variety of different purposes in the wrong hands. So it could even be used for a person that matches that description, to use it for them to get actual healthcare benefits or to receive healthcare. On top of that, since there's so much information, it can be used to actually open accounts and create ease, so fully actually stealing someone's identity. And for the purpose of some attackers, they're simply looking to steal information so that they can sell it on the dark web. And the highest priced records for sale on the dark web for the last, I'd say, 2 consecutive years has actually been the records of patients in their healthcare. The other main avenue that makes healthcare, and specifically hospitals, such targets for specific attacks, and more specifically for ransomware type of attacks, is that because the attackers know if they do have the ability to lock down all the computer systems in a hospital's network, they know that lives are at risk here, and that the decision makers know this, and that they will be most likely to pay the ransom very quickly and without too much hesitation.
I did not even think about that people are going after people's, not only their identities, but to get healthcare insurance and benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about all the people who are out there who don't have insurance and have a medical problem. And if they have the ability to pay a certain amount of money to receive those benefits, it certainly has created a market out there.
Yeah. Now, when we're talking security, it's important to complete a zero trust security. What does that mean, and how does having that impact things like hybrid clouds, ACI, or SD access?
Yeah, absolutely. Zero trust is really the way the security industry has moved recently. In the past, we used to set up a LAN, set up a perimeter layer of security like a firewall, and then everything on that LAN we'd consider trusted. That's really not the case anymore. Now users could really be anywhere. We have users coming and going on our network. We have resources in the cloud, hybrid cloud. They're all over the place. So zero trust is really about not trusting any network anywhere. We want to secure everything everywhere it is and verify identity. And then that comes into play with ACI, for example. ACI is really about managing and securing basically your corporate workload. So this could be in a cloud setup, hybrid cloud, data center, all the business applications that are running, we could secure with ACI and different add-ons to ACI. Then we actually have the campus network still. We still have a lot of users in corporate offices, and we can't really trust that entire network because there's so many users on it. Any user could be a bad actor. You could have guests come in. You could have vendors come in. And you can't trust them all. So the idea is Cisco has SD access. And this is a combination of using Cisco's DNA Center and Cisco's Identity Services Engine to really lock down that network so we could manage it very flexible, granular policies to manage the network, but also do things like microsegmentation to try to contain any anomalies or any spread of any viruses or malware. And this works across both wireless and wired networks for all the endpoints out there. So it's really the top-notch way to go to secure your campus.
Real quick, before we jump straight back into the episode today, we want to tell you about Ingram Micro Financial Solutions and how you can maximize your buying power and get to yes with your customers faster. For the last 9 years, Ingram Micro has been Channel Pro's reader's choice for best financing options. Put the power of our credit and leasing options to work for you. You can easily contact Financial Solutions at ingrammicro.com. All right, let's get back to the show.
Now, I know Cisco has some new security features for 2020, including the launch of Cisco Duo. Can you talk about what's new and what Cisco Duo provides?
Well, let me start out with, Duo is new. Duo was an acquisition by Cisco recently, and it now does fall under the Cisco security portfolio, and also is now being sold and purchased through distribution Ingram Micro. So Duo as a whole is quite new to all of us. And just to give a brief idea of kind of the features and the value points here, Duo does fall under the MFA or multi-factor authentication type of product suite. So I'd say the main feature that Duo gives you is multi-factor authentication as push. And what that means basically is the user selects a device, registers it. So when it needs be, when they're trying to access the system on their, say, laptop, for example, they will receive a prompt on their cell phone or their smartphone, for example, and they will simply click approve. So this way we know that this user at least has two different devices, which is a much higher level of authentication to prove that they are who they say they are. Also, and what really sets Duo apart is these next features. It actually gives the system's ability to look into the visibility of security hygiene of a device. So, for example, I have a company-issued laptop. The company makes sure that this laptop software is up to date and all the vulnerabilities for security have been patched, things like that. But let's say I am using one of my personal devices while I'm at home to check my email and do a little bit of work. So now, even though I do have proper login credentials, let's say I have not kept up the patches on the software for my personal laptop, Duo Access is actually going to be able to look into that and say, hey, wait a minute, you have a very vulnerable piece of software on your personal device. So you're going to actually need to update that before we're going to grant you access. Once that access is allowed, and we've gone through that hygiene process, then it's actually going to take a look into policies and controls set forth by the company and saying, all right, if you're on your corporate laptop, you have access to these array of systems because that's the type of work you do and no problem. But if you're connecting from your personal laptop from home, perhaps we're only going to allow you to access email and nothing else, for example, because we understand why you're checking email late at night, but perhaps you should limit the rest of the work to when you're back during business hours. In all, the idea behind this Duo system is to block unauthorized users from getting access to the system, as well as unauthorized devices. And just to call out some of the key value prop and what sets Duo apart from its competition, it's going to be the ease of use, the ease of management, and the ease of ability to deploy quite quickly as compared to other security systems. It does provide very broad coverage across multiple apps, devices, as well as users. And the speed to security, it is cloud-based, so there's very little to actually implement. And it's very easy for users to adopt as well. We all know as users of these systems that it can really be a learning curve to figure out how to use it and just get through our day back to our normal working function. But with Duo, it's very intuitive, very easy for the user to adopt.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and with regards to pricing in general, like Duo is awesome because there's no specific end user account needed. So some traditional Cisco products might require like minimums of like maybe 25 users or above, but Duo right off the bat, you can start with just one user. 1 user to 100 typically is going to range for about $3 per user, but it's tiered pricing. So the more users that you add, the better your price is going to be. And then obviously, since it's kind of new product to the environment, we're trying to get tests out there. So Cisco actually has a promotion going on right now where if you register a not for resale, also known as an NFR, through Cisco, you can get up to 2,000 users at about 100% off. So obviously, Cisco's trying to make sure that the end users and the resellers obviously have the capability to test this product out. And they also can use their Duo website as well. If you go to duo.demo.com, that's just another resource that you can use for enablement as well. And then Tom over here in the Experience Center, he knows how to do pretty much everything when it comes to demos. He's getting up to speed on Duo as well. So between all the different resources Cisco has and Ingram has, it's something that you definitely should be taking advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I love that you broke that down for us. How can it also help with some of the situations we spoke about earlier in this episode and make places like schools, healthcare, and remote working safer? Can you give us some examples of how it would work within those mediums?
So a lot of these different types of environments like higher education, healthcare, or just remotely working have a lot of similar aspects. One, there's a lot of bring your own device. And in this case, users want to be able to get on quickly. So Duo allows them to instantly deploy. They could self-enroll themselves, saving time. Real big with students. You have a college with 4 or 5, 10,000 students coming on. You don't want to have to manually set up each device. So that self-enrollment really helps. In addition, the management of this is very easy to use. It's designed to be intuitive. It's cloud managed, and administrators could immediately get benefit from it. It also provides very good insights of the hygiene and everything going on with these devices. And then finally, when it comes to schools, for example, Duo protects, the different types of data that they might have, like students have research data. There's also data about their identity, in the school that can be protected. So the idea is whenever they're connecting these remote users, the students, workers in the healthcare, they're verified properly, and the administrators can be confident that they are who they say they are, and all their data is secure.
Now, where can people learn more about all the stuff we talked about today? If they have questions about Cisco Duo or anything else within security, where can they do that?
Yeah, so I'd say anybody on this call is more than capable of helping out with starting conversation with regards to Duo. But specifically, I'd probably say start with myself, Collin, just to make sure we get you in the right contact with people. When it comes to like orders and processing, typically our Cisco software desk is going to handle all of the order processing and information. But just for a starting point, reach out to myself, Collin Rauen, and I'm more than happy to get you guys in touch with the right people.
Perfect. And we can link that in the show notes as well, your email. The last question we like to ask all of our guests here on the show, and I'll ask each of you, is where do you see technology going within the next year? And Kevin, we'll start with you.
Okay, let me start with kind of where my role falls into. To be good at advising on cybersecurity, I have to really study attacks and attackers and the trends of what attackers are doing out there. And what I've seen over the last several years that stays consistent is that basically the hackers react to what the security manufacturers have put in place. So I am obviously anticipating that we're going to see the attackers coming out with some new types of attacks and new strategies and things like that. And I'm going to see the industry and technology shifting more towards this scenario we've been talking about, zero trust and multi-factor types of authentication. I really do see this as being kind of the new way to really be secure, and companies are going to invest more in these types of security solutions.
Okay, what I see actually as a trend in the industry, and especially with Cisco, is really them taking the complexity out of a lot of their tools, especially with security. More and more of their different security products are all working together now. The management tools all talking to each other and fully integrating. And that includes dual integrating into these solutions. But their firewalls, their DNS-based security, all of these different products are now fully integrated to help with threat hunting and overall ease of use and management. And that includes using the cloud to make things easier to do. So that's a big trend. I don't think just Cisco's doing that, but a lot of other companies too. But Cisco's kind of leading the way in that aspect.
Yeah, and like Tom said, I mean, long gone are the days of end user kind of dealing with like 70 different security vendor lines and everything. Cisco's really trying to make it more streamlined. They kind of like to use the analogy, would you rather fly a plane with 70 different parts or just, one manufacturer making them? This one would be Cisco, obviously. So, I mean, you kind of like to see if Cisco doesn't have that specific technology out there today, they're definitely either going to, work on acquiring it or making something that's going to work for end users. So just smooth acquisition throughout Cisco, and having one vendor is going to be, kind of the new trend, I'd like to say.
Well, thank you to all three of you for sharing your knowledge and insight on this topic, and I look forward to hearing more. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you very much.
If you like this episode or have a question, join the discussion on Twitter at Ingram TechSoul with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, Cisco Edition, taking your business a level up, hosted by Keri Roberts. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production by Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today in your favorite podcast platform.